"You're in the wrong place, darling." The words hung in the air like sharp blades, cutting through the silence of the luxurious boutique. The condescending tone carried not just prejudice, but decades of veiled discrimination that still permeated the corridors of the luxury market. It was exactly the reaction Emily Bennett had expected to provoke when she walked in wearing faded jeans, a basic white t-shirt and worn-out sneakers into the city's most prestigious luxury goods store. Her natural curly hair, which she refused to straighten despite constant suggestions from acquaintances, framed her black skin that she had inherited from her paternal grandmother. Emily, at 23, was the embodiment of contrast in this environment dominated by light-skinned employees with rigidly controlled hair. What the employees didn't know was that this young woman was the heiress to the Bennett luxury group empire. In the mirrored hallway of the imposing building minutes earlier, Patricia Bennett watched her daughter with a mixture of pride and apprehension. At 52, Patricia had built an empire from scratch, transforming a single store into a network that dictated trends in the luxury market. Her now perfectly manicured hands still held the memory of calluses from the days when she carried boxes of merchandise. "Are you sure you don't want me to come with you?" Patricia asked, instinctively adjusting the Chanel blazer she wore. Her brown eyes revealed the concern of a mother who knew all too well the prejudices of the world her daughter was about to dive into. "No, Mom," Emily replied with a determined smile, tucking a rebellious strand of hair behind her ear. "I need to see how the service is when nobody knows who I am. It'll be more authentic this way." The network's new store, opened just 2 months ago, was the crown jewel of the Bennett empire. The Italian marble floor reflected the light from the Swarovski crystals hanging from the ceiling, creating an environment that blended opulence and sophistication. Strategically placed mirrors multiplied the space, making the store appear even more grandiose. It was the kind of place where a single handbag could cost as much as a luxury car. Emily took a deep breath before crossing through the automatic glass doors. The air conditioning blew cold, carrying the brand's exclusive perfume, a fragrance specially developed to create a unique sensory experience. Her eyes scanned the environment, capturing every detail: the illuminated glass shelves, the perfectly organized displays, the mannequins wearing the latest international fashion trends. Immediately, she noticed how the employees reacted to her presence. First, there was shock, wide-eyed looks that quickly transformed into poorly disguised expressions of disdain. A tall, blonde saleswoman, Victoria according to her golden name tag, whispered something to her colleague while casting critical glances in her direction. Emily could perfectly imagine the kind of comment being made. The other customers present in the store also didn't try to hide their discomfort. An elderly lady, wearing jewelry that probably cost more than an apartment, pulled her bag closer to her body when Emily passed by. A young couple discreetly moved away, as if her presence could contaminate the refined air of the environment. "Can I help you?" Victoria asked, her tone of voice carrying that false politeness that barely concealed prejudice. Her gaze traveled Emily up and down, lingering with particular disapproval on the worn sneakers and faded jeans. "Yes, I'd like to see some bags from the new collection," Emily replied, maintaining the composure she had learned during her years of international education. Her posture was relaxed, but her eyes were alert, recording every reaction, every sideways glance. Victoria exchanged a meaningful look with her colleague, a malicious smile playing on her perfectly red-painted lips. "The bags in this collection start at 15,000 reais. Perhaps you'd prefer to visit our outlet store at the mall? There we have options more suitable to your profile." The comment carried layers of prejudice that Emily knew all too well. It wasn't just about her clothes, it was about her color, her hair, everything she represented in an environment that still fiercely resisted diversity. "Actually," Emily began, her voice calm but firm, "I'd like to see specifically the celestial bag in Italian leather from the premium line. The one that costs 65,000 reais." She kept her eyes fixed on Victoria's, silently challenging her to maintain her discriminatory behavior. Victoria paled slightly, but her artificial smile remained intact. "Of course. Just a moment while I check our stock." She quickly walked away, whispering something to another employee who passed by. Emily could hear muffled giggles and whispered comments. While waiting, Emily observed the store's movement with critical attention. A light-skinned customer, wearing designer clothes, entered and was immediately approached by 3 salespeople. The contrast in treatment was striking: genuine smiles, immediate attention, offers of coffee and water. The customer was led to a VIP area, with velvet armchairs and personalized service. Emily felt her heart race, not from shame or intimidation, but from a growing determination. Each moment of discrimination she witnessed only strengthened her conviction that profound changes were necessary. It wasn't just about selling luxury products, it was about dignity, respect, and equal treatment. Victoria returned a few minutes later, carrying the requested bag with exaggerated care, as if doubting Emily's ability to even touch it. "Here it is. But I must warn you that we don't allow photos of products without purchase intention." The comment, once again loaded with prejudice, made Emily smile internally. Tomorrow, when she returned as the company's new executive director, that same saleswoman would be in for quite a surprise. But for now, Emily maintained her role, examining the bag with technical knowledge that visibly surprised Victoria. "The finishing is perfect," Emily commented, her fingers tracing the stitching with expertise. "The Italian leather from the Vachetta house has always been one of our differentials. I see you've maintained the natural silk lining as in the previous collection." Victoria blinked, clearly disconcerted by the technical knowledge demonstrated by this young woman she had judged so hastily. Before she could respond, Emily returned the bag with studied gentleness. "Thank you for your time," said Emily, her voice carrying a dignity that made Victoria shift uncomfortably. It was a revealing experience. Leaving the store, Emily felt the weight of the experience on her shoulders, but also a growing certainty of her purpose. Tomorrow would be her first official day as executive director, and she already knew exactly where to begin the necessary changes. The Bennett Luxury Group empire was about to face a revolution in its corporate culture, and Emily would be the catalyst for this transformation. The afternoon sun cast elongated shadows through the windows of Patricia Bennett's office on the 40th floor of the corporate building. The glass walls framed a spectacular view of the city, but the executive barely noticed the landscape. Her eyes were fixed on the door, anxiously awaiting her daughter's return. Her hands, normally steady when signing million-dollar contracts, now drummed restlessly on the Italian marble desk. The environment around her was the embodiment of luxury that the Bennett brand represented. Exclusively designed furniture, carefully selected contemporary artwork, and an atmosphere that breathed sophistication. However, at that moment all that luxury seemed strangely empty, almost ironic. When Emily finally entered the office, still wearing the same casual clothes from the morning, Patricia felt her heart tighten. She knew her daughter well enough to read the storm of emotions in her eyes, even though her face maintained a studied composure. The young woman who had left confidently a few hours ago returned with an expression that mixed determination and profound sadness. "So?" Patricia asked softly, rising from her Italian leather chair to approach her daughter. The silence that followed was heavy, laden with unspoken words. Emily walked to one of the armchairs but didn't immediately sit down. Her fingers traced the contour of the soft leather, a gesture that reminded Patricia of herself when processing something difficult. "You know, Mom," Emily began, her voice controlled but trembling slightly, "I thought I was prepared. All those years in international schools, experiences in other companies, the training, I thought nothing could surprise me." Patricia sat in the chair beside her, maintaining a respectful silence while her daughter organized her thoughts. The air conditioning hummed softly in the background, creating a bubble of privacy amid the bustle of the corporate building. "It was worse than we imagined," Emily continued, finally sitting down. Her hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from contained anger that needed to be channeled. "Much worse. The moment I walked into the store, it was as if I had triggered a silent alarm. The looks, Mom. You should have seen how the saleswomen looked at each other." Patricia felt her own face harden as Emily detailed her experience. Each word was like a blow to everything she believed she had built over 3 decades. "Victoria, the head saleswoman," Emily continued, an ironic smile appearing on her lips, "made sure to remind me that the bag started at 15,000 reis. As if the price was a polite way of telling me you don't belong here." Her voice faltered slightly. "And when I mentioned the celestial bag, Mom," the contempt in her look. "As if it were impossible for someone with my appearance to even know about that line." Patricia stood up abruptly, walking to the window. Her reflection showed lines of worry that weren't there in the morning. "A customer once told me," she began, her voice heavy with emotion, "that true luxury isn't in the products we sell, but in how we make people feel. Today in our own store we made someone feel less than human." Emily joined her mother at the window, their reflections meeting in the glass, 2 generations of strong women, each carrying their own battles. "It wasn't just the saleswomen," she added softly. "I saw how the other customers reacted to my presence. A lady literally pulled her bag closer when I passed by. As if you were a threat," Patricia finished, her voice trembling with contained anger. In our own store. Ours. The silence that followed was heavy, laden with decades of unrecognized struggles and deep-rooted prejudices. Patricia turned to face her daughter, her eyes shining with determination. What do you want to do about this? It's not just about sales training or diversity policies, Emily responded, her voice gaining strength. It's about completely transforming the mindset that allows this kind of behavior to exist. We need to start from scratch. Patricia observed her daughter with a new look of respect. Emily wasn't just reacting emotionally, she was thinking like a leader. Tell me your plan. Emily took a deep breath, organizing her thoughts. First, I want to implement a complete cultural transformation program. Starting with that store but expanding to the entire network. Mandatory training on unconscious bias, diversity, and inclusion. But not those superficial training sessions that companies do just for show. We'll face resistance, Patricia warned, although her tone indicated support. The board? Some directors still believe that exclusivity means perpetuating prejudices? Emily completed, a determined fire in her eyes. Then they need to learn that true exclusivity is about quality, exceptional experience, and universal respect. Not discrimination. The intercom chimed softly, announcing that the shareholders' meeting would begin in 15 minutes. It was as if the corporate world was reminding them that transformations needed to be navigated strategically. You have my full support, Patricia declared, holding her daughter's hands. But we need to be smart about this. Tomorrow, when you officially present yourself as executive director, I want you to go exactly as you are now. A smile of understanding illuminated Emily's face. You want to give them a chance to show their true character one last time? Exactly, Patricia confirmed, a determined gleam in her eyes. Sometimes, to build something new, we need to let the old system expose itself completely. And Emily? She paused, choosing her words carefully. I'm proud of you. Not just for facing this with dignity, but for wanting to transform this experience into something bigger than yourself. The two women embraced, a rare moment of vulnerability in an environment that usually demanded a facade of constant strength. In that embrace was not only the love between mother and daughter, but also the shared understanding that they were about to begin a necessary battle. I'll call some contacts, Patricia said, stepping back to grab her phone. I want some journalists strategically positioned tomorrow. If we're going to teach a lesson about discrimination, let's make sure everyone learns from it. Emily nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility on her shoulders, but also a renewed determination. Tomorrow would be just the beginning of a long-overdue transformation in the luxury world. And she was ready to lead this change no matter the cost. Leaving the office, Emily briefly stopped to observe her reflection in the glass door. Her curly hair, her black skin, her casual clothes, everything that had been used to judge her today would tomorrow be a symbol of change. A confident smile appeared on her lips as she headed toward the elevators. The revolution in the Bennett Empire was just beginning. The next morning dawned with a different energy in the air. Emily woke up before the alarm, her heart beating with a mixture of anxiety and determination. She dressed exactly as she had the day before, the same faded jeans, basic white t-shirt, and worn-out sneakers. Her curly hair was even more voluminous, as if it too was prepared for the confrontation to come. In the mirror of her penthouse apartment, Emily rehearsed her speech one more time. Not out of insecurity, but to ensure that each word carried exactly the weight she intended. Her hands trembled slightly as she applied a subtle lipstick, the only touch of makeup she allowed herself that morning. "You're ready for this," she whispered to her reflection, remembering her mother's words from the night before. Her phone vibrated with a message from Patricia. "Journalists in position. Security cameras adjusted. Everything ready?" Emily took a deep breath. The plan was simple but potentially devastating. She would arrive first, alone. Patricia would come 15 minutes later with a small group of executives and invited journalists to meet the new executive director of Bennett Luxury Group. At 9:45 a.m., Emily parked her Tesla Model S near the store. Even though she owned a luxury car, she chose not to use it as an identifier of her status. Today's battle would be fought on different terms. Upon entering the store, the déjà vu was immediate. The same exclusive perfume in the air, the same luxurious environment, and unfortunately, the same looks of disdain. Victoria, the saleswoman from the day before, was organizing a display window when she noticed her presence. Her face assumed an expression of barely disguised annoyance. "Can I help you?" asked another saleswoman, Amanda, her tone of voice making it clear that the question was more a formality than a genuine offer of assistance. "Yes, please," Emily responded with studied calm. I'd like to speak with the store manager. The saleswomen exchanged meaningful looks. Victoria approached, assuming a defensive posture. The manager only sees people by appointment, and only for matters related to significant purchases. Emily maintained her serene smile. I believe he'll want to see me. Look, Victoria began, her tone now openly hostile. I don't know what your purpose is in coming back here, but as I explained yesterday, maybe you should look for establishments more suitable to your profile. The silence that followed was heavy. Other employees had stopped their activities to observe the scene. Some shopping customers looked discreetly, probably expecting to see the poorly dressed young woman being politely escorted out. My profile? Emily repeated, her voice calm but carrying an authority that made Victoria hesitate for a second. And what exactly would my profile be, Victoria? Before the saleswoman could respond, the store doors opened. Patricia Bennett entered, impeccable in her Chanel suit, followed by a small group of well-dressed executives and, to everyone's surprise, 3 people carrying professional cameras. Victoria's face lost all color when she recognized the company's CEO. Her eyes jumped from Patricia to Emily, a horrified understanding beginning to form in her mind. Good morning, everyone, Patricia pronounced in a loud and clear voice. I've come to officially present our new executive director, who will gradually take command of Bennett Luxury Group. My daughter, Emily Bennett? The shock was palpable. Victoria stumbled slightly, needing to lean on a nearby display. Amanda dropped the clipboard she was holding, the sound echoing in the sepulchral silence that had settled in the store. Emily stepped forward, her posture emanating a confidence that seemed to fill the entire environment. Thank you, Mom. As everyone can see, I've returned today dressed exactly as I was yesterday, when I was treated with a level of prejudice and discrimination that shouldn't exist anywhere, much less in one of our stores. The cameras began recording everything, capturing the mortified expressions of the employees and Patricia's proud gaze. Over the last 2 days, Emily continued, her voice now projected so everyone could hear clearly, I conducted an unofficial evaluation of the service in our most prestigious store. What I found was deeply disturbing. Racial discrimination, social prejudice, and behavior that goes against everything the Bennett brand should represent. Victoria tried to take a step toward the back door, but Patricia raised a hand, signaling for her to stay where she was. Starting today, Emily proceeded, we will begin a complete transformation of our corporate culture. It won't just be superficial training or a policy on paper. It will be a fundamental change in how we treat people, all people. She walked up to Victoria, who looked like she was about to faint. Yesterday you suggested I look for an outlet because my appearance didn't match this store's standards. Today, as your new executive director, I suggest that you and all employees do some deep reflection about your prejudices and values. One of the journalists present raised their hand, asking permission to ask a question. Emily nodded. Miss Bennett, was this action planned to expose prejudice in the luxury industry? This action, Emily responded, measuring each word, was a necessary response to a systemic problem. The luxury industry often confuses exclusivity with exclusion. True luxury doesn't discriminate, it welcomes, elevates, and respects. Patricia approached, placing a hand on her daughter's shoulder. Starting today, we will begin an extensive restructuring program in all our stores. Discrimination of any kind will no longer be tolerated. Those who don't adapt to this new reality will have no place in our company. The store manager, who had emerged from his office upon hearing the commotion, was visibly pale. Miss Bennett? Mrs. Bennett? I had no idea. Exactly, Emily interrupted him. You had no idea because you chose not to see. Everyone here chose not to see. But that ends today. She turned to face the cameras directly. Bennett Luxury Group is committed not only to excellence in products and services but to building a truly inclusive environment. This is just the first of many steps we'll take in this direction. While journalists eagerly recorded every word, Emily could feel the weight of the moment. It wasn't just about her or about a bad service experience. It was about decades of normalized prejudice, about toxic standards that needed to be broken. Victoria, still trembling, stepped forward. Miss Bennett, I apologize. My behavior was... Your behavior was a reflection of deeply rooted prejudices, Emily completed. And that's exactly what we're going to work to change. Not just in you but throughout the entire company. The rest of the morning was dedicated to interviews and the official announcement of changes that would be implemented. While the cameras continued recording, Emily maintained her firm posture and clear message. The era of veiled discrimination in the luxury world was coming to an end, at least in Bennett companies. In the weeks following the incident, Bennett Luxury Group became the epicenter of a silent revolution in the luxury market. The video of the confrontation in the store had gone viral on social media, generating millions of views and intense debate about discrimination in high-end retail. Emily observed the headlines in her new office, now decorated with works by contemporary Black artists and designed furniture that blended global influences. The glass wall offered the same spectacular view as her mother's office, but the energy was completely different. 3 more major stories came out today, informed Jessica, her new executive assistant, a young Black woman whom Emily had personally hired. The Wall Street Journal wants an exclusive interview about the cultural transformation program. Emily nodded, leafing through the reports on her desk. Changes were already underway. Diversity and inclusion consultants had been hired, new service protocols were being implemented, and an extensive training program was being developed. "How's the atmosphere in the main store?" Emily asked, although she already knew the answer through the daily reports she received. "Tense," Jessica responded honestly. "Victoria resigned yesterday. 3 other employees left too. But we have over 200 resumes from candidates interested in the positions, many with international experience and impressive backgrounds." Emily stood up and walked to the window, her reflection now wearing a tailored suit that didn't hide her identity, but celebrated it. "They thought it would just be a media show," she reflected. "That we'd do 1 or 2 basic training sessions and everything would go back to normal." The sound of heels in the corridor announced Patricia's arrival, who entered without knocking, a habit that Emily secretly appreciated. Her mother carried a thick folder and an expression that mixed pride and concern. "The board is restless," Patricia announced without preamble. "We have shareholders worried about brand dilution." She made air quotes with her fingers, her disdain for the term evident. Emily smiled, a smile that very much resembled her mother's when facing challenges. "Let me guess, they think embracing diversity will scare away traditional customers?" "Exactly," Patricia confirmed, sitting in one of the designer chairs. "But I brought something that might interest them." She opened the folder and spread some graphs across Emily's desk. Jessica approached, her eyes quickly scanning the numbers. "Are these last month's sales reports?" "Yes," Patricia responded with a satisfied smile. "After the story went viral, our sales increased by 40%. The new collection, the one with collaborations from Black and Indigenous designers, sold out in 48 hours. Emily picked up one of the reports, studying the numbers carefully. Younger customers, especially, seemed to be responding positively to the change. Gen Z and younger millennials, Jessica added, consulting her tablet. They represent 65% of new sales. And these aren't just first-time buyers, they're customers who are coming back, bringing friends, sharing their experiences on social media." Patricia stood up and began walking around the office, her restless energy indicating she had more news. "I received 3 calls today. Gucci, Louis Vuitton and Prada. All wanting to know more about our cultural transformation program." Emily raised an eyebrow, surprised. "The European giants are paying attention?" "More than that," Patricia smiled. "They're nervous. Our approach is making them look outdated, stuck in an antiquated business model that excludes a significant portion of consumers with high purchasing power." Jessica made some quick notes on her tablet. "Should I schedule meetings with their teams?" "Not yet," Emily replied, thoughtful. "First, I want to ensure our program is working perfectly. We won't just be diversity consultants for other brands, we'll be the example they'll have to follow." The intercom rang and the receptionist's voice announced that Amanda, the former saleswoman from the main store, had arrived for her meeting. Emily had been surprised when Amanda requested a meeting, especially after the incident. "Want me to stay?" Patricia offered, her expression showing maternal concern. "No, Mom," Emily smiled. "I need to do this alone." After Patricia left, Emily prepared to receive Amanda. The former saleswoman entered the office with a very different posture from the arrogance she had shown in the store. Her eyes were red, as if she had been crying recently. "Miss Bennett," Amanda began, her voice trembling slightly. "Thank you for seeing me." "Emily, please," she gestured for Amanda to sit down. "What can I do for you?" Amanda took a deep breath, clearly gathering courage. "I came to ask for a second chance. Not to return to the same position, but I want to be part of the change. After everything happened, I started reflecting on my own prejudices, about how I was raised and educated." Emily watched carefully as Amanda continued, seeing sincerity in her words and tears. This was exactly the kind of transformation she hoped to provoke. Not just structural changes but deep personal transformations. You understand that if I give you this chance, it will be in a different position with new responsibilities and very clear expectations? Emily asked. Amanda nodded vigorously. Yes, I'm willing to start from scratch, to learn, to change. I want to be part of this transformation, not just as an employee but as a person. Emily smiled, pulling a folder from her drawer. Then I think you'll be interested in this. We're assembling a team of diversity ambassadors, employees who will undergo intensive training and then help implement changes across all our stores. Amanda's eyes widened at the unexpected opportunity. I don't know what to say. Don't say anything yet, Emily replied, handing over the folder. Take this home, read it carefully. It's a serious commitment, not just professional but personal. If you're still interested after reading everything, we can talk about next steps. After Amanda left, Emily turned her attention to the city beyond the window. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Her fight was just beginning, but each small victory, each transformed mind, each broken barrier, was a step in the right direction. The main auditorium of the Bennett Corporate Center was absolutely silent when Emily began her presentation. 3 months after the incident that went viral on social media, she could feel the weight of hundreds of eyes upon her. Top executives, regional managers, selected employees, and a diverse group of new consultants occupied the front rows, while the more conservative shareholders strategically clustered at the back of the auditorium. You are watching the death of the Bennett brand. Richard Sterling's grave and irritated voice cut through the silence like a razor. He stood up abruptly from his chair, interrupting Emily in the middle of her results presentation. This isn't transformation, it's destruction. The instant murmur that spread through the auditorium was like a wave. Emily stood firm on stage, her vibrant red suit contrasting with her black skin like a silent declaration of resistance. Her natural curly hair, which she refused to straighten, looked like a crown of determination. Mr. Sterling, Emily responded, her voice calm but firm, perhaps you'd like to examine the numbers before making such a statement. Numbers? He practically spat the word. I have 50 years of experience in this market. Luxury is about exclusivity, about making people feel special. What you're doing is turning Bennett into a common department store. Patricia, who was in the front rows, made a motion to stand up, but Emily subtly signaled for her to remain seated. This was her moment to face the old guard. Special? Emily repeated, setting aside the microphone and walking to the edge of the stage. How special did Mrs. Maria Santos feel, Mr. Sterling? With a gesture, she brought up security footage on the screens. In it, a black woman, elegantly dressed, was practically ignored in one of the Bennett stores, while salespeople elbowed each other to serve a younger, white customer who had entered after her. Maria Santos is the chief surgeon of the city's largest hospital. She came into our store to buy a graduation gift for her daughter. Do you know how much money she spent afterward at one of our competitors? 200,000 reais. The silence in the auditorium was deafening. Emily continued, her voice gaining strength. Or perhaps you'd like to talk to David Chin? Another video appeared, showing a young Asian businessman being discreetly followed by security guards inside a store. CEO of one of the country's largest technology companies. He tried to buy a watch at our mall store. The security guards asked to see his card 3 times before he even reached the checkout. Sterling looked slightly uncomfortable but maintained his combative posture. Isolated cases don't justify a complete change of... Isolated cases? Emily interrupted him, her voice trembling slightly with contained emotion. In the last 3 months, we interviewed over 1,000 customers who were discriminated against in our stores. People with purchasing power, education, and influence. People who could have been our best customers, but who chose never to return. The screens began showing a sequence of testimonials. Business executives, doctors, lawyers, artists, all sharing experiences of discrimination in Bennett stores. Each story was like a blow to the old mentality that Sterling represented. And you know what's most interesting, Mr. Sterling? Emily continued, now walking down the auditorium's central aisle. Since implementing our cultural transformation program, our sales have increased by 40%. Our social media presence has grown 150%. Customer satisfaction is at 95%. Sterling tried to interrupt again, but Emily raised her hand, silencing him with a gesture. But it's not about numbers, is it? It's about power. About keeping things as they've always been because change is frightening. Because it's more comfortable to pretend that prejudice is refinement, that discrimination is exclusivity. At this moment, Amanda, the former saleswoman who now led the Diversity Ambassadors program, stood up. "Mr. Sterling, I was part of the problem," she said, her voice choked with emotion. "I discriminated against customers every day and called it maintaining store standards. Do you know how much money we lost in my section alone because of this behavior? $3 million last year." Other employees began to stand up, sharing their own transformation stories. A saleswoman cried while reporting how she had mistreated a customer who later turned out to be an important international executive. A manager admitted to having instructed security guards to keep an eye on non-white customers. Sterling, visibly shaken, tried one last attempt. "The other shareholders have already approved the program's continuation." Patricia finally intervened, standing up. "By a wide majority. Do you know why, Richard? Because besides being the right thing to do, it's saving our company from becoming irrelevant." Emily returned to the stage, now with tears in her eyes that she made no effort to hide. "True luxury, Mr. Sterling, isn't in the price of our products or the exclusivity of our stores. It's in the ability to make every person who walks through our doors feel truly special. Not because of their skin color, their hair type, or the clothes they're wearing, but because they are human beings who deserve respect." The silence that followed was broken by applause. First timid, then growing until it became deafening. Employees hugged each other, some crying openly. Even some of the more conservative shareholders seemed moved. Sterling, defeated, sat heavily in his chair. Next to him, a young black executive whom he had never really noticed before was wiping her eyes. "Grandpa," she said softly, "now do you understand why this is so important?" The old shareholder looked at his granddaughter as if seeing her for the first time. Decades of ingrained prejudices began to crumble in his chest. Emily observed the scene from the stage, her heart beating strongly. The transformation was happening one person at a time, one story at a time. And even though the battle wasn't completely won, that moment marked a point of no return in Bennett Luxury Group's history. A year had passed since the historic presentation at the Bennett Corporate Center auditorium. On a sunny spring morning, Emily observed from her office window as a considerable line formed in front of the main store. It was the launch of the first collection fully developed under her management, Roots and Revolution, a collaboration with designers from diverse ethnic and social backgrounds. The social media buzz in recent weeks had been intense. The advertising campaign, starring models who completely broke from traditional luxury market standards, generated both praise and heated criticism. But Emily knew she was on the right path. Online pre-sales had broken all previous brand records. "Opening numbers just came in," Jessica announced, entering the office with her tablet. "We already have over 1,000 people in line. The press is all downstairs." Emily adjusted her dress, an exclusive piece from the new collection that blended elements of her African heritage with contemporary haute couture. "And Victoria? Did she confirm she's coming?" Jessica smiled. "Yes, she's there. Along with other former employees who were invited to see the transformation's result." "Great," Emily responded, picking up her bag. Time for the moment of truth. In the elevator, Emily found her mother, who was radiant in an ensemble developed by an indigenous designer for the new collection. Patricia held her daughter's hand tightly. "Ready to make history again?" Patricia asked. "Actually," Emily took a deep breath, "I'm more nervous than I was on the day of the shareholders' presentation." The elevator reached the ground floor, and the doors opened to a lobby packed with journalists. Flashes immediately went off, and a wave of questions filled the air. Emily maintained her serene posture as she walked toward the store entrance. Outside, the line stretched for blocks. It was an impressive sight not just for its size but for its diversity. People of all ethnicities, styles, and ages waited eagerly. Some wore designer clothes, others were in jeans and t-shirts, exactly as Emily had been on that fateful day a year ago. Victoria stood near the entrance, visibly nervous. Since her dismissal, she had gone through a personal transformation journey, participating in awareness programs and even starting a blog about her experience of unlearning prejudice. "Miss Bennett," she began, but Emily interrupted her with a hug. "Today is a new beginning for all of us, Victoria," Emily said softly. Amanda, now the store's general manager, approached with tears in her eyes. "Everything's ready. The team is positioned. Every salesperson has gone through the complete training and awareness program." Emily looked through the glass doors at the completely remodeled store. The luxurious environment remained, but there was something different in the air. The walls now displayed works by diverse artists. The mannequins presented different body types and ethnicities, and there was a special section dedicated to young designers from traditionally marginalized communities. "Let's open the doors," Emily announced. The moment the doors opened was electrifying. The crowd began entering in an orderly fashion, each person being received with the same level of respect and attention. The salespeople, now representing true diversity in appearances and backgrounds, moved with confidence and genuine interest in serving. Richard Sterling, the shareholder who had so vehemently opposed the changes, was present with his granddaughter. Emily observed him interacting with a young salesperson with dreadlocks and piercings, who was passionately explaining the details of an exclusive suit. "Surprising, isn't it?" Patricia commented, following her daughter's gaze. He became one of the program's biggest advocates after that day in the auditorium. A young black woman, wearing simple clothes, timidly approached a display case with bags. Emily recognized in her the same apprehension she had felt a year ago. Immediately, a saleswoman approached with a genuine smile. "Can I help you explore our new collection?" the saleswoman asked with genuine interest. Emily watched the interaction with a full heart. The young customer, initially tense, gradually relaxed, trying on different pieces, being treated with the respect and attention everyone deserved. The following hours were a whirlwind of emotions. Customers left the store not just with shopping bags, but with genuine smiles. On social media, the hashtags #BennettRevolution and #LuxuryForAll became trending topics. A reporter from a major television channel managed to get a moment with Emily. "Your vision of transforming the luxury market is becoming reality," she commented. "But there were certainly costs. How do you respond to critics who say you've popularized the Bennett brand?" Emily smiled thoughtfully. "Luxury was never about exclusion. True luxury is about excellence, quality, and above all, dignity. What we did was remove artificial barriers that prevented talented people from creating and deserving people from consuming. The results speak for themselves." At that moment, Victoria approached again, this time accompanied by an elderly lady whom Emily instantly recognized. It was Maria Santos, the surgeon who had been discriminated against in the past. "I came personally to congratulate you," Maria said, emotional. "What you've done here, it's not just about fashion or luxury. It's about human dignity." Victoria, with tears in her eyes, added, "and about redemption. About the possibility of people and institutions changing for the better." At the end of the day, the numbers were impressive. Record sales, international media coverage, millions of social media interactions. But for Emily, the true success was in the genuine smiles, the transformation stories, the broken barriers. In her office, hours later, Emily found an envelope on her desk. Inside, there was a letter from Richard Sterling. "Dear Emily, today I saw the future of the luxury market, and it is brighter and more inclusive than I ever imagined possible. My granddaughter was right. True luxury is about making all people feel special. Thank you for showing us the way. With admiration, Richard Sterling." Emily put the letter in her drawer, along with other important memories from that transformation journey. The revolution she started was just beginning, but now she was certain. The world was ready for a new definition of luxury, one that included everyone who valued it, regardless of their appearance or origin. 5 years had passed since that transformative day of the Roots and Revolution collection launch. On a quiet autumn afternoon, Emily crossed the main lobby of the now renovated Bennett Corporate Center, its walls displaying a photographic exhibition documenting the company's transformation journey. Her steps echoed on the polished marble as she stopped before each image, reliving moments that had changed not just her life, but the entire luxury market. The first photo showed herself 5 years ago in her faded jeans and worn-out sneakers, being discriminated against in the store. Next to it, a current image showed the same store filled with diverse customers, all being served with the same respect and attention. The contrast was striking. Reminiscing about the old days? Victoria's voice surprised her. The former saleswoman, now Bennett's global director of training and development, smiled beside her. "It feels like it was in another life," Emily replied, unconsciously adjusting the blazer from her new collection. "Do you remember how it was?" Victoria nodded, her eyes revealing a mixture of regret and gratitude. "Every day I'm thankful that moment happened. It was painful but necessary. Not just for the company but for me as a person." The two women walked together through the corridor of memories. Bennett Luxury Group had become the global reference in inclusion in the luxury market. What started as a response to an incident of discrimination had become a global movement. In Emily's office, now located on the top floor, an entire wall was dedicated to headlines and awards from the last 5 years. Bennett revolutionizes the luxury market. Inclusion is the new luxury. Bennett Group leads diversity ranking in high-end retail. But it wasn't the awards that made Emily most proud, it was the stories of personal transformation. Last quarter's numbers are in. Jessica, still her faithful assistant, announced entering the room. 300% growth in 5 years. No other company in the sector has achieved anything like it. Emily smiled, taking the report. Financial success was important, but it was the other statistics that really mattered. 75% of employees now came from traditionally underrepresented groups in the luxury market. The mentorship program had trained over 500 new professionals, and customer satisfaction rates consistently remained above 98%. "My daughter wants to work here when she grows up," Victoria commented, looking through the panoramic window. "She's 12 and already says she wants to be like Aunt Emily. Just imagine, there was a time when I couldn't even look you in the eyes, and now my daughter has you as an inspiration." The intercom rang, announcing that Patricia had arrived for their weekly family meeting, a tradition they religiously maintained, no matter how busy they were. Emily's mother entered the room, her hair now gracefully gray, carrying an old folder. "I found this morning," Patricia said, placing the folder on the desk. "These are the reports from that first week after the incident." The three women sat down to examine the documents. The initial numbers were frightening: drop in sales, order cancellations, shareholders threatening to withdraw investments. It had been a true moment of conviction testing. "I remember the first board meeting after the viral video," Patricia reminisced. "Some said it would be the end of Bennett. Others demanded your immediate dismissal, Emily. But look at us now. The Bennett empire hadn't just survived, it had prospered beyond the most optimistic expectations." The company now operated in 50 countries, with a diversity and inclusion program that had become a model for the entire industry. Other luxury brands, initially skeptical, now rushed to copy their initiatives. "Richard Sterling called this morning," Jessica informed. "He wants to know if you can give a lecture at his group's next shareholders meeting." Emily laughed softly. The former opponent had become one of the cause's greatest advocates. His granddaughter now ran an NGO focused on preparing young people from underprivileged communities for careers in the luxury market, with full support from Bennett, of course. "Oh, I almost forgot," Victoria added. "Amanda sent photos of the new store in Paris. You need to see the French reaction to our inclusive luxury concept." Bennett's international expansion had faced initial resistance, especially in more traditional markets. But the results were undeniable. Stores that adopted the new inclusive service model consistently outperformed competitors. Emily's phone vibrated with a notification. It was a message from Maria Santos, the surgeon who had been discriminated against years ago. She had become a loyal customer and close friend, as well as a member of the company's diversity advisory board. 5 years, Emily murmured, looking through the window at the city stretching below. "Sometimes it feels like it was just yesterday that I first walked into that store. And sometimes it feels like it was in another life," Patricia completed. "A life where we thought luxury had to be synonymous with exclusion." As afternoon wore on, they continued sharing memories and planning the future. The mentorship program was about to expand to include a fashion institute focused on talents from marginalized communities. The new collection, developed entirely by designers trained in the program, was creating buzz on social media. "You know what makes me most proud?" Emily asked, getting up to serve coffee for everyone. "It's not the numbers nor the awards. It's seeing people like me entering our stores without fear, without hesitation. It's seeing our employees treating every customer with the same respect, regardless of appearance." Victoria nodded, emotional. "It's seeing my daughter growing up in a world where she won't need to prove her worth based on her appearance." Patricia took her coffee cup, watching her daughter with pride. "You haven't just transformed a company, Emily. You've changed the mindset of an entire sector." The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Emily picked up her bag, a piece from the first Roots and Revolution collection that she kept as a treasure. "Shall we go? We have that benefit dinner for the Bennett Institute for New Talents," she reminded them. While descending in the elevator, Emily reflected on her journey. The girl who had been discriminated against in her own store now led a revolution in the luxury market. But more importantly than that, she had created a precedent proving that change was possible, that prejudices could be unlearned, that tradition didn't need to mean discrimination. In the lobby, a young black woman with curly hair, dressed simply, waited timidly. Emily recognized her. She was one of the mentorship program's scholars. "Miss Bennett," the young woman began, nervous. "I just wanted to thank you. Before your program, someone like me would never dream of working in the luxury market." Emily smiled, remembering herself 5 years ago. "True luxury," she responded, "is in being exactly who you are, without fear and without apologies." As they left the building, Emily knew her mission was far from over. There was still much work to be done, many minds to be opened, many barriers to be broken. But looking back at the path traveled, she was certain. Every difficult moment, every battle fought, had been worth it. The revolution she initiated had become much bigger than herself. It was now an unstoppable movement toward a future where luxury and inclusion were no longer contradictory concepts, but complementary ones. A future where every person, regardless of their appearance or origin, could dream of being part of this world. And so, friends, our story comes to an end. What do you think about the transformation led by Emily? How did her actions change not just a company but an entire sector? Leave your opinions in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the Life Stories channel. This helps our channel grow and allows us to bring more exciting adventures to you. Until the next story.